Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. What went wrong as the Phillies dropped the series opener down in Atlanta to the Braves? We'll discuss that on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for a little over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to this in podcast form. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. We're also available on YouTube. So if you're checking out YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel yet, make sure you do so. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free. It's easy. It also really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. So I appreciate everyone who's done that and everyone who's going to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. The Phils, a rough series opening game down in Atlanta. We're going to break down what exactly went wrong. We're going to assign some blame, if you will, from last night's game. We'll get into plenty of that to start. We're also going to talk about some bullpen concerns early for the Phillies. How dire is their situation with the bullpen? There have been some questions, certainly, about some of those arms. And then we'll preview game 2 with Taijuan Walker on the mound facing off against Grant Holmes. My goodness, do we believe in Taijuan Walker now? Is that what I'm starting to hear from the fan base? I don't know. We'll discuss that. But last night was a weird game. Wild game, right? The Phils, they get down early. Well, they score early. They go up 1-0 in the first inning after Chris Sale looks dominant. And that was good to see. But then in the bottom of the second, the whole fiasco happens in center field. So let me just break this down for you in case you are not aware, in case you have questions, in case you're arguing the wrong thing. Here is the situation. As told by Rob Thompson, as told by Edmundo Sosa, as told by Johan Rojas, all the parties involved. Fly ball gets hit out to center field, right? And left center to be proper. And both guys converge on it. Edmundo Sosa playing left. By the way, awesome home run robbery out of Edmundo Sosa. This guy is on an unbelievable heater right now with just doing special things. This was not one of those things in left center in the second inning. Johan Rojas and Edmundo Sosa converge on the baseball. Apparently, Edmundo Sosa was yelling, you, which is weird because, I've always been taught in my baseball career. Now, obviously, I didn't play at the major league level, but that's always been an acceptable thing from what I know about outfield play. Now, could be different at the major league level because of crowd noise. I never played in front of full stadiums of people. I played in, smaller venues, but maybe that's improper because noise at that level, any sounds kind of you can't distinguish it from a call for or a call off. So you're supposed to say nothing, according to what Rob Thompson said after the game. That's what they teach. Edmundo Sosa was saying that is incorrect based on what Thompson said. Understandable because he's a left fielder for the first time. It was his first ever career start in left field. So you have that going on. And Johan Rojas hears that. He doesn't understand that Edmundo Sosa is not calling for the ball, but rather saying, hey, bro, you got it. And both of the guys pull off the ball. Now, here's where it becomes nearly entirely Johan Rojas' fault. Now, should Edmundo Sosa have been quiet by what Rob Thompson said after the game? Yes. But he was communicating. He was just not communicating the proper way. Here's what should have happened. Rojas has got to go get that baseball. As the center fielder of the team, you got to go get it. You have, number one, anything in the air. The center fielder has fly ball priority. All right. That means if the ball is at shortstop, literally, Trey Turner doesn't have to move. If Rojas wanted to call him off and can get there, that's his right. He's the outfielder. He's the center fielder. He gets priority over the corners. He gets priority over the infielders. He gets priority over God himself if the ball's hit in the air. So part of that is you got to make the call. You got to go get it. There are plenty of times in an outfielder's career where a left fielder may call a ball and you're playing center and you say, screw that. Mine. Me. Go get it. You're the center fielder. If you can get to that ball, the expectation is you go get that baseball. Now, there's nuance to it, but the base level understanding of outfield priority is center fielder's the captain. That's what Rob Thompson called Johan Rojas after the game. He is the captain of the outfield. He's got to go get that ball, even if he thinks that Edmundo Sosa is calling it. Screw that. You're playing your first career game in left field. I'm a great defensive center fielder. We need this baseball caught. It was not caught. But what makes it even worse is if it had dropped in between the players, that's one thing, right? Okay, they didn't communicate. It drops in between. Neither of them had equal blame, right? The ball almost hit Rojas' darn foot. It was wild how close the ball dropped to him, where it seemed like almost if he had reached out his glove, like underhand, he could have basket caught it standing where he was. And he just had no interest in going to get that baseball. That is on Johan Rojas. Austin Riley ends up on second with a double. Zack Wheeler then walks Jared Kelenic, and the next pitch to Sean Murphy is hit just absolute nuke, right? The Phillies would have been out of the inning. Wheeler did get another out of that after that, but the Phillies would have been out of that inning without giving up 3 runs. Final score 7-5. The Phillies win the ballgame. They win the ballgame 5-4. Now, that's not a fair projection, right? Because a lot of other stuff would have happened differently in the game. You can't just, it's not butterfly effect to a T in baseball where this thing doesn't happen, so nothing else happens the way it does. We don't know, right? But on that play, Johan Rojas needs to go get the damn baseball. Edmundo Sosa needs to communicate better, but that is a drop in a bucket compared to a Gold Glove caliber, I think, center fielder in Johan Rojas, if he plays enough games, just letting a ball drop at his feet. So that's unconscionable. It gives Wheeler 3 earned runs because that is a double by letter of the law in Major League Baseball. That's not an error, even though some people feel that it should be. That's how the game's always been scored. So whether it's right or wrong, it is what it is. That was the point of the game where you felt like, man, you can't give up those opportunities to a team like Atlanta, whose record says they're bad, whose lineup says they're good, whose pitcher that was on the mound for them was NL Cy Young winner last year. Now, the Phils touched up Chris Sale. Kyle Schwarber, 3 hits, a nuke home run again. He's red hot. The biggest positive for the Philadelphia Phillies so far this year, outside of their starting rotation, has been Kyle Schwarber. He's on an unreal tear, and for a guy that normally starts seasons slowly, that's a great thing to see. Nick Castellanos had a 3-hit day. Love to see that from him. He was seeing Chris Sale very well. Always kind of hits well down there in Atlanta, and he has a lot of experience against Chris Sale in his career, so maybe that helped. But the Phils were able to gain the lead back. They took a 5-3 lead at one point when Kyle Schwarber hit his solo home run, but then they were done scoring, and then the bullpen didn't really get the job done. Zack Wheeler gave Matt Strahm some inherited runners. Matt Strahm gave up a run on a fly ball to left field. Ryan Kerkering wasn't good. Well, he was all right, but he wasn't sharp enough. And then Tanner Banks ain't it, guys. I'm sorry. I know every bullpen in baseball has these guys that are fringe dudes that you need in low leverage situations. And you might say, well, why did Rob Thompson use Tanner Banks in a higher leverage situation? Relievers are like cars, right? No matter how well they're built or how poorly they're built, one way or the other, you can't just leave them sitting in the garage. You got to drive the car. You got to crank the engine. You got to get the car out on the street so that rust doesn't happen, so that wear and tear, not wear and tear, but issues don't happen. Cars are meant to be drove. Relief pitchers are meant to throw. So at some point, you got to get guys in games. I guess Thompson felt that was a good spot to get Tanner Banks some work, give him a chance. You used a lot of relievers in the series against the Dodgers, even though you had an off day on Monday. So I'm not killing Rob Thompson for putting him in the game, but Tanner Banks is not inspiring faith from the Philadelphia Phillies fan base. We already have the Jordan Romano issue. Alvarado can be a mixed bag, even though I think he's been very good this year. Kerkering is young. He's still going to have to figure some stuff out. I think the talent is insane. The experience is not quite there yet. And then outside of those guys, who else are you looking at? Strahm's a great reliever, all-star last year. But we're going to talk about this in bullpen concerns later on. That's definitely something that popped up in the game because you think about the Romano stuff and everything too. I don't want to do too much on the bullpen because we are going to devote the entire next segment of the podcast to it. But those were the things that went wrong in the game. And the Braves showed you why they're still the Braves, even though they started off the season slow. If you make mistakes against that team, they're going to beat you, right? They're going to, especially when they're familiar with the Phils. They're up for the series because they know it's a big divisional matchup. And to not absolve Zack Wheeler, he wasn't sharp either. He did not have his best stuff. Now, if Rojas catches that ball, you could argue that Zack Wheeler would have gone 2 earned, and even one of those was an inherited run that was scored after he left the game. Like, would have been a totally, totally different vibe to the game. I'm not blaming Johan Rojas for the loss. Not. A lot of stuff happened in the game. But those are unacceptable mistakes. The bullpen not being able to hold their own is unacceptable for a team of this caliber. That was an annoying loss. It's not a major freak out situation. It's not a situation where, like, oh no, this team's in trouble. They're 7-3. They're 10 games in. But it now makes this series tougher for the Phillies to win. And it sucks to see Zack Wheeler get hung out to dry by a defensive miscue when you could have been out of that inning. And that really set the tone for the Braves felt like they had life, even though the Phillies battled back to take a 2-run lead. You always kind of felt like Atlanta was in that game from the point where Rojas let that ball drop. But it's one game. We move on to game 2, which we will talk about later on in the episode. And the bullpen concerns, they're a little bit more than one game. So that's why we're going to go deeper into that coming up next, because I'm not hitting the panic button or anything, but I have some worries as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Wonderful Pistachios, though, because they are the absolute best. I love Wonderful Pistachios, one of my favorite snacks. They're both delicious and nutritious, and you can crack into a good source of protein when you try Wonderful Pistachios. They're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keeping you feeling fuller longer. Now, normally, this is where I'd show you the bag of Wonderful Pistachios that I get. I like the no shells, sea salt and vinegar version. They're awesome. They taste amazing. I just knocked them off my desk while I'm doing this. So I'm not going to reach under the desk to go get them in the middle of the ad read. But they're amazing. I eat them all the time. They're great for you. They taste great. You can get the regular shells variety. I don't like to have to crack them. Whatever floats your boat, Wonderful Pistachios has an option for you. And they got a billion different flavors and seasonings. They're a great snack. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. All right, the bullpen issues. How big of issues do the Philadelphia Phillies have in their bullpen currently? Well, it's April, 8th or 9th, whatever today's date is. You lose track. April 9th. It's early on in the season. They played 10 games. I try and consume baseball seasons in 10-game stretches. The Phillies have won 7 of their first 10. That's pretty darn good, especially considering they played the Dodgers for 3 of those first 10 games. So the team's just fine. Anyone who's freaking out is freaking out for no reason right now. But that doesn't mean we can't project out issues. And that doesn't mean we can't criticize the parts of the team that don't seem to be up to snuff. And I was breaking down the bullpen arms for the Philadelphia Phillies. And here's kind of how I see it right now for the Phil's bullpen. You have a high leverage guy in Jose Alvarado, a lefty. You have a high leverage guy in Matt Strahm, a lefty. You have I believe him to be a high leverage guy in Orion Kirkring. Some people may differ on that opinion. The first 2 guys, I think, are locks, right? Alvarado and Strahm, those are your guys. Kirkring looks like he should be a guy. Will he be? It's going to take a little more development, a little more time. He has been at points in the past consistently. I don't know. He's still a young player. Like, I think Kirkring's a great arm in the bullpen. I think he's going to have an awesome year when everything's all said and done. Still early, still undetermined. These are gut feelings for me. These are not based on I've seen him do it. I know these things to be true. Those are your 3 high leverage arms for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. One kind of maybe as a righty, 2 lefties. So already righty reliever is a bit of a red flag for the Phillies. And that exists because Jordan Romano has not been good. He has flat out not been good for the Phillies so far. Is the story written on Jordan Romano as a Philadelphia Philly? Absolutely not. He could be this guy all year. He could be great again. It is way too early to tell. He's made, 4 appearances? 5 appearances so far for the Fighting Phils this year. That's not enough to make the call one way or another. It is enough to make the call where he can't get more high leverage spots right now. He is not, at this current time, a high leverage arm for the Phillies. So you've got 2 lefties, half a righty. Romano's not one of those guys. Tanner Banks certainly isn't one of those guys. He's just a lefty-lefty matchup guy. I think last night was use him to use him type of thing from Rob Thompson, but the situation didn't really fit what I think they'd like to use Tanner Banks in more often than not. I'm looking at some of the other arms, and Jose Ruiz is a nice middle innings guy. I'm not throwing him in the 8th. I'm not throwing him in the 9th. Hell, I'm not throwing him in the 7th in a 1-run game. 2, 3 runs, go get it. But I don't feel great about him as high leverage. He is a solid reliever. Not knocking him. He's just not these special arms that the Phils have in the back end of their bullpen. So Ruiz is good, but he's good for what he does. I'm interested in Joe Ross. Haven't seen a lot of Joe Ross. He's gotten spots here and there, but I don't know what to make of him yet. I'd like to see him get more opportunity. He could very much help out the Philadelphia Phillies in the bullpen if he proves to be a high-level reliever. He showed flashes of that in Milwaukee. I don't think the Phillies know exactly what they want to do with him yet. I think part of that has come from the questions in the starting rotation with Ranger Suarez hurt. We'll see when Suarez comes back. I have no update on the Suarez injury. The thought was Taijuan Walker might have to give you 2 starts. He hasn't made his 2nd start yet. He'll do that later today, which we're going to talk about in the final segment of the episode. But until you get Ranger back, there's kind of other stuff up in the air. So maybe they're saving Joe Ross in case they need to spot start somebody. I don't know. I'd like to see more. Carlos Hernandez, I don't know what the guy is. They acquire him. I've seen him, once? Like maybe twice? I don't even know. Not high impact spots. He's probably the righty version of Tanner Banks, right? He's a guy you'll use if you have to, use in blowouts and mop-up roles, but that's pretty much it, right? Hernandez, Banks, Ruiz, Kerkering, Alvarado, Strom, Romano puts you at 7? So am I missing one guy? I don't even know. Like you're looking at a situation where the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen is not exactly ironclad right now. Now, I don't think this means they definitively need an upgrade. Like they're going to upgrade at the deadline if they're in the playoff picture, and they will be. Every postseason team always adds to the bullpen. But I'm not saying you got to go get like this all-star caliber closer right now. We'll see how it continues to develop. I worry about the lack of high leverage righty arms. I have an idea of what Strom's going to be. I have an idea of what Alvarado's going to be. You don't have that with righties in the Phillies bullpen, and that's an issue. So I don't know. As far as DEFCON is concerned, DEFCON 5 is the least level of concern. DEFCON 1 is the highest level of concern. We're at like DEFCON 4 right now. It's 10 games into the season. It's not nothing, but it's not an immediate problem. The Phillies can win games consistently with this bullpen. Thankfully, they have the greatest starting pitching on the planet, in my opinion. So that's very, very helpful. But in days where your starting pitching doesn't hold up, like Zack Wheeler yesterday, where guys have off days, and it happens, you don't really have the, we're going to make up for it in the bullpen type of power right now with how guys are throwing. So this puts even more pressure on the starting rotation and the offense, mind you, to be really, really good. There are going to be stretches of the season where the offense doesn't hit. And a guy like Christopher Sanchez will go out there and he'll give up 2 over 7 innings, and you'll score 1, and it'll still be a tight game. And he'll have a great start, but it will come down to the bullpen holding you where you are for the offense to wake up. This is not just a Philly-specific issue. This is a baseball thing. Games like that will exist, and when the time comes, if you have questions about the Phillies bullpen, I don't blame you based on what I've seen right now. So what can the Phils do to remedy these problems? It sucks to say, but nothing. Right now, they have nothing they can do. They don't have someone in the minors that's like, this is an immediate call-up. This guy's ready. They don't have trade partners this early in the season. Like, they're not signing anybody. This is the bullpen. So they have to do what's best for the players to promote success, which is giving the high leverage innings to the guys that have earned them and feel comfortable in those spots, giving guys like Jordan Romano, who are struggling right now but could be a high leverage inning guy, more opportunities in like the 5th or 6th inning. That's reality. It's not ideal. Again, it's not specific to the Philadelphia Phillies. So if you're freaking out about the bullpen, like, this bullpen stinks, you'll never win anything. There are Dodgers fans saying that. There are Braves fans saying that. There are Mets fans saying that. There are fans around baseball saying that about their bullpens because it's impossible to get 8 high leverage arms in the same bullpen. There are going to be guys that have deficiencies. So don't lose your mind over it. But if you've been telling your friends, that bullpen is sketching me out a little bit, I'm here to tell you it's sketching me out a little bit too. That can change in a snap. Remember, Phil's bullpen was awesome last year. Remember how quickly that changed when they faced the Mets in the NLDS? Yeah, you had all-star guys that couldn't find the strike zone. When they did, the ball was hit a mile. So something to keep an eye on, something that can change quickly. That is my number one concern with the Phillies right now is how do they work out the bullpen to get some guys going, to keep the guys that are high-leverage guys in the right spot, and to maybe find a little bit more depth there by promoting proper situations and a little bit of confidence that it seems like some of these guys need. That's where I'm at right now. We will see how it all plays out for the Fightins. But if the rest of the team does their job, it shouldn't be a huge concern. And the rest of the team should do their job more often than not. Now, we talked about what happens when starting pitching is not at their best. Saw with Zack Wheeler yesterday. That's a conversation that we've got to be prepared to have for tonight's game because Taijuan Walker's going back to the mound. As much as I loved what Taijuan Walker did in his first start of the year, shutting out the Colorado Rockies through 6 innings, I'm not going into this game tonight expecting him to do the same. What am I expecting? I'll tell you in a second as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Monarch Money first. You ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? It happens to me multiple times a month. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's really easy to lose track. And that's why Monarch Money is so important. They are your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. That's what happens when you take care of your finances. You don't just maintain, no, you build. And when you start using Monarch Money, you're going to realize just how much you might be spending on things like food delivery or entertainment, going to baseball games, for example. I know you're all big baseball fans. Now you can budget smarter and save more when you use Monarch Money. Instead of juggling multiple apps, all of it's on the same interface, which makes it super easy for you to use. Also lets you use it with your partner if you need to go ahead and have joint finances or anything like that. It's super easy. It reduces all the stress of your normal financial deals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Go ahead and check them out at monarchmoney.com. All right, let's talk about Game 2 of the Phillies series with the Atlanta Braves. Tonight, 7:15 p.m., down from the Truist Park, the same setting. Very different pitching matchup in this one, though, where last night you had the matchup of the top two Cy Young finishers, and both kind of got shelled a little bit, and Zack Wheeler and Chris Sale. Tonight, you get Taijuan Walker against Grant Holmes. Grant Holmes comes into this game with a 7.2 ERA, and Taijuan Walker's is at 0. But here's what we look at, right? Both of these guys have made one start. Holmes has 5 innings pitched. Walker has 6 innings pitched. You can't really make major determinations on either of these guys this year so far. Now, when you look at the stats for Grant Holmes, who's only been with the Braves and been at the major league level for 2 years, last year he had a 3.56 ERA in 68 and a third innings pitched. Now, he only started 7 games and appeared in 26. So he was a reliever, kind of converted to a starter. They're trying that again this year to give them more rotation depth as they await the return of Spencer Strider. He's not that great of an arm, and he's a righty, which plays more into the Philadelphia Phillies' strengths. So you should see the normal lineup with Kyle Schwarber batting leadoff tonight. Grant Holmes is gettable, and he's probably going to have to be because I respect the heck out of what Taijuan Walker did against the Rockies in his first start of the year. Put that in one box. Like, Taijuan Walker was excellent. We gave him love on the podcast. He got love from the fan base. He deserved it. He stepped up for the team when his number was called. Now, that does not undo what he did through all of last year, through parts of the spring training schedule this year. Taijuan Walker is not all of a sudden Zack Wheeler, right? He is still Taijuan Walker. Does that mean that he can't go out and throw well tonight? No. Does it mean you should be expecting him to go out and throw well tonight? Also, no. Like, if you're going into this game with an expectation of a repeat performance from Taijuan Walker, I think you're misled. And this is not me trying to beat a guy down who just had a great start last time out for the Phillies. I want him to do well. I don't expect him to. I don't expect him to go out there and look great again. When I see a great performance from a player that is not typically giving teams great performances, or not typically giving your team in his time here a great performance, I would say, okay, that's the anomaly. History would tell me that Taijuan Walker is probably going to have a bit of a rougher time. Let's prepare for that. So how do you prepare for it? Well, one, you go into this game thinking, okay, we need to get Grant Holmes. You can't press. You can't get in a situation where you're swinging out of the zone, trying to hit a 5-run home run in the first inning because you think Taijuan Walker is going to give up runs. That can't happen. The Phils have to stay within their approach. I thought they were pretty darn good at that again last night against Chris Sale. Not as much so against the Braves bullpen. Saw some nice arms out of the bullpen last night from the Atlanta Braves. So one-off sample size. Taijuan Walker's start last time was also one-off sample size. So if you had to ask me how many runs are the Phillies going to have to score to win tonight's ball game, I would tell you they're going to need to score 5 or more runs at minimum. Like, I don't think 3 or 4 is winning this game. With where the bullpen is right now, with what I'm expecting from Taijuan Walker, I don't know. Now, let's live in the positive for a second. What happens if Taijuan Walker goes out tonight and he gives you 6 more shutout innings and the Phils win the ball game and he looks awesome? 2 great performances does not undo what we've seen from Taijuan Walker. Like, he's not winning me over. He is impressing me with his resolve. He is convincing me that he can still pitch at the major league level. But the bar is not, hey, this guy can be a league average pitcher again. The bar is Ranger Suarez for 3 months last year was a darn Cy Young candidate. Taijuan Walker ain't going to be a Cy Young candidate. When Ranger Suarez comes back and is healthy, that's his spot. So I'm not just – the wool's not pulled over my eyes when it comes to Taijuan Walker and what I believe him to be. But that doesn't mean we're not going to root for him. It doesn't mean he's not capable of putting together a solid start now and again. It just means that every solid start that he puts together, for like a guy like Zack Wheeler, you expect him to have great starts every time. A guy like Taijuan Walker, if he gives you a good one, I think the natural thought is, well, shoot, we're probably not going to get another one of those out of him, so we better be prepared to score some runs today. And that's the fan base's thought process. Again, not the Phillies' thought process. Now, if I'm Rob Thompson, I do have to think critically about my starters whenever I think I'm going to have bullpen use early. This could be a Joe Ross night where you're going to have to get 2 innings out of a reliever, 2 and change out of a reliever. Use some of the longer arm guys in the bullpen. So maybe we will see Joe Ross tonight, and I was calling for that earlier in the episode, that I'd like to see him get some more opportunities to see exactly what he is. Taijuan Walker, if he gives you 5 innings and 2 or less earned runs, you're ecstatic with that performance. If it's 5 or 6 and 3 or 4 earned runs, you say, okay, well, we'll try and live with it. If it's a blow up, I mean, that's par for the course for what he's done the past couple. Par for the course is a great example. I'm sure a lot of you golf, or if you don't golf, you understand the sport of golf, and you've seen some of your buddies or maybe yourself even play a round of golf where we're probably not playing in the Masters this weekend, right? If I go out and I'm going to shoot in like the high 90s or low 90s every time I go out, which is normally like bogey golf, and I birdie a hole, you know what my buddies say to me? Like, they're not saying, oh, you might birdie everything now. They're saying, bro, that's you're 1 in a million. You're going to triple this next hole. And the next thing you know, you're going to come back down to earth because that's who you are. Taijuan Walker birdied his last start. Is the triple bogey coming? Only time will tell. But we will see how the Philadelphia Phillies take advantage of Grant Holmes tonight on the mound. Kyle Schwarber has been red hot, being in the leadoff spot, facing a righty. We'll see if he nukes another one. It'd be nice to see Bryce Harper get going. I would love to see Bryce have a big game. The other thing is, does Edmundo Sosa find his way back into the lineup again? He went 0-for in last night's game. Made a nice play in left field, had the miscommunication with Rojas. I think maybe Sosa gets a day off. I don't think you try and force him into the lineup after that, especially righty-righty. And I think you're seeing Stott, and I think you're seeing Kepler, and I think you're seeing Marsh, for that matter, in center field again today. So a little bit of a different lineup for the Phillies would be my guess against Grant Holmes. Maybe some of those guys like Marsh, who pinch hit last night and struck out, or Stott, who had a bit of a rough night at the dish against Chris Sale. Maybe those guys get going against a gettable righty in Grant Holmes. Phils really need to win this one. Dropping a series to Atlanta gives them life. It puts you in a situation where you got to fight off a sweep going against Spencer Schwellenbach tomorrow, which he's been a good arm in the short sample size to start the year. You do have Jesus Luzardo throwing, so we'll see. But we'll get to tomorrow's game when we get to it. Big one for the Phils tonight to give themselves a chance to win the series and to stop the chance of the Braves sweeping them. You got to stop the bleeding. That's what great teams do. We'll see if the Phillies can bounce back from a rough night with a strong performance this evening. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, please make sure you're rating, reviewing, hitting that subscribe button on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. Appreciate that all very much. And I will talk to you tomorrow on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.